Here we are for October Splice. A few words, and then Henry and Sean will be introducing our readers. I want to say just one thing. So poetry readings are a social scientist's dream lab. Detecting particles or subparticles of the zeitgeist and testing them in various combinations can reveal what have been up to now invisible and not obvious forces of society. The results are sometimes understood at the psychological level, at other times the philosophical, and very often indeed at an ideological level. But more than that, these lenses are not enough. Here at the Splice, we believe that it's an authentic poetic stance towards the world that's key to splitting those particles, at the same time that our spectators must assume these same maneuvers. And so that's the key for these crazy experiments to pop off, and we believe that they do, and all of us indeed walk away with glimpses of rare worlds tucked into our own. Please give a warm Splice welcome to Stine An and Tanner Menard.
All right. Tanner Menard is a poet, composer, and yogi. His book and album, The Poet, was recently released on Full Spectrum Records and Asemic Press. He has published 13 albums of experimental music and a number of textual publications. He is the founder of UBU University, an online yoga platform. In The Night Sky, Writings on the Poetics of Experience, Anne Lauterbach meditates on the term experimental, a word that may come up when some describe the poets invited to perform here at the Splice Poetry Series. Lauterbach advocates that it is the pressure of experience, the fact of attention to experience, which leads to real, that is, authentic, experimentation, a willingness to adapt to context in order to derive not so much new meanings as new ways of interpreting the unpredictable. Menard's poems do this work, interpreting, adapting, reconfiguring our ecological awareness, queer positionality, or reflexive spirituality. His poems use that experimental and a fragmentary polyvocal approach to form a meditative lyricism where silences, gaps, and repetitions stun natural rhythms to interrogate comprehension and reaction. His intermediate work integrates sound, concrete poems, photography, all manner of distorted torsions that surprise and invigorate poesis. This intermediate poetics pressurizes how poetry can exist in our culture and how these mediums evoke our interconnectedness. If you haven't yet, please go on Bandcamp, search Tanner Menard, the poet, buy the album for $7, pop your headphones in, and settle in for a listen. Here's the description on Bandcamp. Featuring spoken vocal tracks recorded by Menard and the artist NVJQ, the recorded version of this work involves performative contrapuntal poetry, which is then treated as a non-traditional score for the creation of musical accompaniment via Menard's classic techniques. Far more than a collection of poems, however, the poet plays back as a symphony of voices, including perspectives from the poem itself and the poet, as well as hypnotic suggestions, dreams, and past life counterpoints, rewriting the frequency of memory as light on water. This fluidity, both in genre and in the boundaries of art and Menard's work, dismantles the stifling binaries that constrain human expression. In her introduction to The Night Sky, Lauterbach jokes that poetry is not good for you the way walnuts are good for you, but she urges that good poems reconfigure the place between acts of perception and response, mental conception and material structure in sets of particulars that keep the news from shredding existence into repetitious and interminable platitudes. She also says that poetry protects language from serving any master. These poems reconfigure language toward that hope. Please welcome to the Splice stage, Tanner Menard.
Thank you, Sean, for that lovely introduction. And thank you, Rodrigo and Henry, for having me here, and for everyone for joining. It's an honor to be here for this series. I'm going to read one, despite how I was introduced as being very experimental. For this reading, I decided to just read a poem from my book, and then to read from a long poem that I thought that I had abandoned, but that I decided to start working on again. And that's all I'll really say about it. Yogi Bhajan gave a gator to me in a dream state, and on the interstate, discussing the astral potential of spirits to communicate a message, Aquarian sadhana in New Mexico. My sinus goes nuts. The poem rearranges my guts. The old folks have arrived, so blue and cold, so blue and warm. As light, you wonder who they are. I have no doubt. I showed the babies the planets Jupiter and Saturn coming together and apart. Together and apart. We have to have an entire class devoted to whether or not the materialist world is real. It's not. It's not. This is Tanner Menard reading this poem. I was born under the name of the star Christina Menard. I was born in September. She was born just before Christmas. We watched the Great Conjunction in 2020 together like the planet themselves, a proximity appearing from our location to be a single bright star. We were in Louisiana. This is the name that we call it now. It has been called other names. I went to where she grew up recently. It is a wilder place. When I went there, the sun had not come out yet. It was gray, and when I went back to the back of the cove, the trailers were crumbling back into the marsh. When I looked at a distance back into the areas that my uncle had taken me to once, I could see the shadow of silent, ancient trees. When I was little, my mother would leave me with an Indian woman named Teresa. She was left in a barn as a baby and raised by Cajuns. Her house was surrounded by trees. Once she nursed a hawk from sickness. I was told it stayed with her in her yard until it died. When I call myself Tanner, it places me in a certain position. I can say, this is who I am. My mother called me this name. She was born in this place. It had a certain quality. The quality of the land and how she got there had an effect on her, and her effect on herself had an effect on me. It created a set of parameters by which I could measure myself. I struggled against the edges of the wall. When her family was landed in this place, I wonder how they reacted. Somewhere in my body there are sounds. There is an owl in there somewhere, I know there is. What I reject in a poem is this, an impulse ricocheting in a chamber that does not reveal itself. When I say that Tanner Menard is reading this poem, what I am doing is not creating a reader. Yuji Krishnamurti, who I have mentioned before, said, in paraphrase, that the soul has no eternity. It is the body that never ends. That had a tremendous impact on me. There are a million teachings. There is one me in this moment, a vantage point, a position with a set of parameters, a physical entity, a chamber with something ricocheting. The direction of the projectile surrenders to itself. A portal formed in the kitchen. From the insides of a box came a box of sorts. We knew how to turn things on at that point, on and off. In the living room, the TV was on, varying from a range of static to a range of controlled static. A rainbow that appeared as form. It could only be on or off. It could not respond to us. There was a tower in the other town over that sent it to us. We could tell it yes or no. When the portal opened, we could ask it questions, ask it to perform for us. At first it was simple, a few green lights dancing as we asked it. Then it made sound, singing to the movement of our fingers. No one knew what it meant to ask a portal questions. My uncle was the star maker. He was not reluctant about it, but his mythology had been turned to the wrong page. On the correct page, a star hangs over the earth, stretched upon a hide of herbs drying on the palmetto roof. A star reigns at night. When the babies are sleeping, a star cradles a baby at night. In the midst of itself, reigning and reigning like a mother, like a grandmother, a recursive ma, ocean, fractal coup of herself. My uncle was not reluctant to open his flamethrower. It was a war token, sold in a garage sale somewhere. He lit it with a flicked cigarette, and it rained upon anything he told it to rain upon. His mouth was a star mouth, twittering at dusk, a single red light. I seemed to exist outside of myself, lithium sheath upon my hand, rectangular life, a ball of pixels bouncing from edge to edge, projecting back at an interface of skin, of bone, organic material, whose only function was to witness a birth. Touching my words with fingers, making a sign, moving the future air with a mudra fit to the frequency of a thought that reflects, clicking the plastic 4 times for a D to punctuate, and letting the radiation take it. It's pretty slick that I can click your trace into something lyrical, one clumsy pulse at a time. I'm barely on time fixing myself somehow against it. We're barely on time fixing ourselves somehow against one another, breaking time. This is Tanner Menard reading this poem. When I say that, speaker, you are not forced to resemble me. The mind is a tool of the substance from which the name emanates, and the fingers an agent of a subtle body. Your mouth intercepts the side of time and ejects what I have left there for it, a piece of myself, the most precious piece of myself, the most continuous part of myself that does not require an origin to be stable. Speaker, when your eyes translate the light, what you see is my projection. What ricochets is a projection of the remains, and what is intercepted and transferred as sound is the sun bouncing back and forth over her face, and her face is the moon. I stand somewhere on the earth as a witness to the light. Ancient light, approximately 8 minutes old, a metaphor for the relative distance of your father and your father's 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 father to the now. We measure ourselves against the sun. The number of times I have looped it is less than the number you traced before I was reborn on this planet. I came here to witness the moon's disappearance. When the moon disappears, what will the water do? How will I dip from it? Where will the prairie birds go to rest? When my orbit has changed, a bird, a question, a sound punctuates, lifts. Walking into the once prairie with song feet, a bird's splinter, a black Lorenza tractor undulating avian waves. My grandmother had another name for them. I land on the mother, my rubbered feet, her paved face. I imagine her hair where the grass once was. Years later, on Andrea Lane, covered in 7 Sisters, where a bobcat had come to live, I saw it pacing there once, a time travel to now. My soul traces the path where it has been marked. There are holy people who know the points. My grandmother's mother never spoke to her in dreams. She appeared by water. I could see the dream as she spoke it to me, and then she said there was an herb she kept. She believed in herbs. What herbs have they synthesized? How will they enter your veins? Will I dream of you together when the moon is gone? I have an uncle adopted named Victor Orange. His mother gave him the water. When the lamb was taken into the earth and in the water of the earth, it became tears of holy earth, the tears of the most precious earth, of the mother of the earth. The mother of the earth held breath of the lamb in her breath, in her breast, in her exalted, beautiful breath, the blood of the earth. The mother brings the water to the moon, and we drink of it, and we drink of it, and we. Time travel to now. In the dream, my uncle and my grandmother and my grandmother's mother are sitting in the shadow light of the moon. The moon is on the earth, and there is a shadow between the moon and the fire on the earth, and there is a shadow between my family and the moon. Go back to the fire. I turn the wood, and it is bright again. When I turn the page of the wood, the mythology is a book of nothing but words. The book I had been longing for, invisible, wordless, a scripture of coals. This is Tanner Menard reading this poem. By now, speaker, you may have intercepted an inverse relationship, a cross of meanings between the supposed me and the supposed you is an asteroid belt. Between the child Tanner Menard and my now father was an asteroid belt. How do we get our spacecraft there? How does Mars situate itself on Earth? Between the child Tanner Menard and the Earth was a belt of fragments. He learned them in a place called school, tidbits of data, later so-called modern scientisms and postmodern trivias, historical figments with monikers known as facts. Between Tanner Menard and the notion of what was beneath the name was a play of rules. And in this play there were characters, names, dates, and places, both beloved and hated. Tanner learned to construct fences in the heat. What you learn in the fourth line is the difference between the now and a character named Tanner Menard. The character Tanner Menard jumped from asteroid to reach Mars, like a wolf, a dog, a wild coyote dancing in space, yipping, howling, making a sound as he hopped without regret through the dark. As a wolf, the character Tanner Menard could not reach Mars. Crying to the moon, she listened to him, his echo chamber, encased between the fur, a place to ricochet, a soft bullet dancing in the tissue of his soft, empty heart. The size of space, the dance escalated to the streets of Oakland, where he found himself looking for papers not too late at night in the wrong neighborhood, and the bullets became real. He was running from a sound, a pop that whizzed past his ear and caught his leg like a dog who could not be kept. Flinging themselves into infinity, the emptiness nearly exploded as he reached Telegraph Avenue, which he clicked to call and say, "I have been shot." The character Tanner Menard could not reach Mars by crossing an asteroid belt, for there is nothing but fragments in fragments. The character Tanner Menard was known as barely audible, and as a coyote he loved to hunt undetectable beneath the moon, looking for chickens and other small game. When he would return to his body, there would be an array of musical instruments sitting before him, and some false idea casting itself from the light of his device. He had added himself to the digital collective, making sounds from dusk till dawn while people slept. He had even convinced them to sleep in the same room while he bathed quietly enough to keep them asleep. He was interested in consciousness, surprisingly, because he was in fact not conscious, nor even a human being. When the wolf keeper died, the character Tanner Menard could not contain himself, because the character Tanner Menard was only a shadow, a wolf, who wanted to be a Homo sapien. One night, the character Tanner Menard looked inside the chamber and could not see anything. Within the blankets of fur, there was nothing but blankets. Reaching out into infinity, nothing but blankets, long hairs, The closer he looked, the crazier it got, but there was nothing to see. Nothing but hair slowly moving in the wind. I thought I had a heart, the character Tanner Menard yipped into the abyss. The character Tanner Menard died in that moment, and the vehicle which had been dreaming this character began to awaken, uttering, "I need love now." The vehicle found itself on the earth, sitting before a fire. Between the vehicle and the fire was a bucket of water, and above the vehicle was the space it had attempted to navigate. The stars were weaving between the black and the black crocheted white roses, sipping the water, electric and alive. One drop dropped into the cavern as a heart, and where a wolf once was, an empty character, a Homo sapien now sat upon the earth, looking at Mars in a glass of water. This is Tanner Menard, reader. Do you believe me when I tell you the four sounds encompass breath and trajectory? Tanner Menard. That the sounds mark of location beneath. That the sounds emanate, are eminent, required, denote, mandate, and surround. They place you on the other side of what is suggested to be. When I reverse the direction of reader to what it is supposed to be, I could tell you the one who speaks and marks this is a mirage. Tanner Menard. Spiraling, the sounds are the typist driving fingers, a navigator inside the vehicle, somewhere infinitesimal, subatomic. Magnitude does not denote a physical size or proximity to the great, but it is the scope of the infinitesimal to determine its altitude in space, imprint and expand to the limits, dripping amid the stars, entering the dark sweet depths of the mothers, far beneath the swaying grasses, the dome lumps of her bosoms and bellies, the fire beneath the fire. The waters, the oceans, the depths, suddenly punctuated, Plutonian and contained, expand. The compass of the sonic, the vessel, subatomic love punctuates an opening. Among the barriers of its soft cradle, the blood was letting something softer enter. When I woke up in the cradle of the earth, and the sound of the earth was soft, a hum, magnetic and modulated slightly by her child's intent and by her child's internet. I saw what was there, but what was not there at all. A snake, a cougar, all the darkest beast, in the form of a ghost, and I could not be scared or move. The heat was intense. The heat was meant from the breast to touch like a milk the blood of my heart, and let it. When I woke up in the cradle of the earth, and I could not move because I would be eaten, the water was splashed on the throne of Pluto. They have entered. I was feathered, and the shadow of the fire was soft and wet. In the pit, spoke in the mist, sniff this rose and deep. On Andrea Lane were an acre worth of bramble interspersed with 7 sisters. The stars had come to visit, little stars in the summer lullaby like people ruby painted whispering. On Andrea Lane was a house, and it was green, and I stayed there in sleep. I saw a double-headed snake. On Andrea Lane, I could see a man in a tree literally forming himself in the bark. On Andrea Lane, the grasses had grown so high that my memory was needed to see the barn when I entered it. There were 2 of me, looking at myself in the barn, dropped on hay where I now, the typist lay his hand upon the plastic keys, holographic sound of a boy playing in the twined web, the rafters creaking beneath his feet as he remembered suddenly dying, falling from the top of a barn, soft loft, picture of a pitchfork in his upper back, and through his tender 12-year-old heart, he does not know how they found him. On a bus at 12 or 15, seeing a red balloon and remembering this fall, what life was it? In the fall of my 10th grade year, when my thought was wrapped in the conservatism of an aspiring classical musician, the civics teacher had a massive coronary incident. In his place was placed a man named Simon, an unkempt, tall, and bearded man named Simon who was not readily liked by the teaching staff. On his first day in office, he set the tone of his impeachment, telling the class that he was a student of Vedantic Hindu. Each morning thereafter, I would wander to his class and we would talk Tantra, Vedanta, and of course the course, which was popular then, and a range of other material. 2 years after my initial betrayal, this is to say, when I watched Joseph Campbell on PBS, I saw a myth for a myth. Each morning before I would meet the teacher, I would sit at the altar of the small church across the street, reaching for what I wanted to find in the exterior. One day, shortly before he was fired, Mr. Simon asked me if I was happy. I said, I could never be happy in this small town. And he said, is this small town real? And in an instant, there was nothing but the four sounds, tan, ner, Menard, swiveling around an empty nothing, cutting through 30 pages of spiritual materialism in my sleep. He, she, it, you made me, see myself in myself. I saw you looking back at me who was not entirely alone or a me. From behind you gazed in your own eyes, which were mine. The entropy of pushing against a path I already decided. Friction feeds the flame. Surrender is not passive. It is a pulse, a choice, a throbbing, flickering meditation by the one whose path I walk upon. I walk on the mirror of self, seeing you look back at me. The path contemplates itself in me. Running and playing, dancing and singing on a beautiful day, the pond and the wagon in the field, I made myriad designs of the mind. Play friends, aliens, and dragons. I told you, but you didn't believe me. I joined karate to fight the foes. I learned music to escape when I lost. Lost in a sound that didn't serve me. I missed teenage love, young adult playfulness, and then, pretending to be spiritual, forgot to marry. Until one day, I saw myself in another who told me the truth. Sitting on a pillow, head down, and then erect, I met a star looking in the mirror, an entire galaxy looking at itself, longing to belong. I bend over and grab my phone, and Google grabs me from my mind, taking me to where the puppeteer would like me to be, and like me to see, and liking myself a meme, surrender my sovereignty. Who among us, waiting for the black widow to strike, enjoys the wind stoking the web? I've been to the saints of unity, Parasambhava, Jesus, Nanak, Babaji, Baba Siddhi-Chand, Dekawandawa, and their modern incarnations, Neem Karoli Baba, Harbhajan Singh Khalsa, Chogam Trungpa, Yoganandaji, and all those who in their wake woke me, the web of me, and thee, and thou, a zero hero, Shunya. Thank you.
Keep it going for Tanner Menard now. Absolute pleasure to introduce our next poet. I've been lucky enough the past several months to have been swimming in rich conversations on poetics with poet Stine An, developing when we first crossed interneted paths as comrades with a shared interest in the art of clown. Most recently, she was telling me about her thoughts on that nebulous but tantalizing state of mind that occurs when one reads a book while half asleep, which in turn renders language as a kind of hallucinogen, maybe always. How when you read a certain passage, then look up from the codex, the world does not always look the same, has been or or decoded, at least for a spell, until the next trip. There's a lot of bad acid out there in the world. Gratefully, An's forthcoming debut collection, Bee Dragon Suite, winner of last year's Nightboat Poetry Prize, set off in my readership the proper whirling rainbow state of mind when dropping a book. I can't remember the last time I've read a collection which activates so many textures available to poetry, like a variety show blistering hot. In a matter of minutes, inside Bee Dragon, you experience translation, concrete vispo, poets theater, lyric as song lyrics, iconography, scenography, code poems, prose poetry, hand-drawn illustrations, all for the low, low price of a couple eyes and maybe ears of admission. The collection pulls us through the eyes and mouths and bodies of a fictional K-pop band, even walking through the warm-up vocals, the songs, the music videos, the modes of production, constantly toying with the English and Korean language. A display of how another language can multiply in the poet translator's hands into every possible color, like a prism in a sun at noon on a cloudless day. And like any good trip, I'm not sure if me as the reader is the sun, the poem's the prism, or maybe the other way around. It's poetry, probably both. In another sequence of poems, The Snail Bride and Other Summer Stories, earthy lyrics of love and of brevity are contained by the fragile shell of language, sauced in the slime of snail's mucus, which serves a very pragmatic purpose: to lubricate its slow crawl across the landscape of, quote, slimed glitter, moon balloons, ice cubes. It somehow manages to be tensely erotic, transcendental, and hilarious. It's worth mentioning that An worked in stand-up comedy for nearly 10 years before moving to poetry. Above all, An embraces the fact that on the page, one can do anything. If the stage directions say that Bee Dragon, the lead rapper, is bouncing in a hydraulic lowrider, miming pistols with hands, then they are bouncing in a hydraulic lowrider, miming pistols with hands. The poetry of realism here can't get into the cartoonish club. It's also worth mentioning that An is a frequent illustrator as well. An acts as bouncer, tossing them out and asking, why would we want more of this brutal reality we already live in? Why would we make two of those? Quote, the cartoons expose the fact that what parades as civilization is actually barbarism. That's from critic Esther Leslie. Welcome instead to a certain version of Earth littered with big guns, big cars, big money, or even, quote, applause is a kind of explosion. Such a dangerous world, of course, is not without its problems. These seem to have license to parade anywhere they like. This is from An's poem, Korean Language School in the Key of B minor. They tried to take our fucking language from us. Do you understand? You're going to have to give all that up. For what? So that certain Americans won't laugh at you for reading Mirage out loud as my rage? And the speaker is right, it's bullshit, but the etymology of the word suggests this is the product of being beasts of burden, how capital and colony zoify us daily. Those systems, as we know well, don't mess around, but neither does An. Her multimodal spiral lights fire to the calliope, rewires the synthesizer, goes ham on the drum machine. Brecht's famous little ditty of a question was, in the dark times, will there be singing? And An's answer comes in a heavy-based yes. We will be bumping, cruising, riding dirty like a snail in its shell to the dark times until we get the fuck out of them. Cien Nai establishes the new aesthetics of our day to be either cute, zany, or interesting. An's poetic welcomed them all under one patronated roof, zany in concept, cute in emojis, interesting in its unpredictable consequences. Like a hashtag GRWM video in a funhouse mirror, you see yourself in it, but you question yourself too. I swear I'm almost done. Zani originally was a noun from zany that meant a comic role in commedia dell'arte, especially that of a servant. Yet the paradox of those traveling thespians were both stocked, expected, and improvisatory, unexpected. The job of the Zani, according to Nai, quote, demands that they be able to take on virtually any job in any moment in an incessant flow. thus defining the ideal worker of the 19th century industrial capitalism described by Marx, the perpetual temp, extra, or odd jobber, itinerant and malleable, for whom all labor is abstract and homogeneous, end quote. Those 17th century people were actors, editors, writers, and performers of their own material. They had no choice but to do it all. To my mind, no role of contemporary artists comes closer to taking on this many jobs upon themselves as, you guessed it, the poet. Call it a calling or call it shit work. It doesn't change the fact that we will continue the poetic plod until we can't. But for this next set, we can kick our hooves up for a spell, transform into a fly on Stine's brain, tapping your legs to the fantastical snail slime, K-pop, K-kapow, K, blah, blah, blah. Rub your wings together and let the buzz tingle your soul. This is bound to be hot shit. Stine An on the mic.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Henry. Thank you, Rodrigo and Sean, for having me here. And thank you all for coming here tonight. My name is Stine, and I'm dressed like this because you should dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And I'm pretty sure that when I grow up, I want to be a poet. So I do poetry. I also do literary translation, and I want to share with you some of the literary translation projects that I've been working on recently. And now it feels like I'm doing a stand-up comedy set, but I am not. Actually, would y'all be open to singing a song with me? Mm-hmm. Okay, because I think you had that thing about in the dark, will there be singing? Is it like a Brecht?
Yeah.
Brecht? Okay. So, all right. It's a row, row, row your boat, which we all know. Okay. 1, 2, ready, go. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. 10 days later, floating down the Delaware, chewing on your underwear, wish you had another pair. 10 days later, bitten by a polar bear, that's how the polar bear died. So I've been working on this new translation project. The working title is Occupational Front for 직업 전선, which was published by Spring Days Book in 2022. And it's by an award-winning South Korean poet and essayist named Song Seung-an. So I'll introduce Song Seung-an briefly. Song Seung-an, born in 1986 in Wonju, Gangwon Province, studied creative writing at Chungang University and debuted as a poet in 2011 in the prestigious South Korean literary monthly Hyunddae Munak, Contemporary Literature. Song is the author of 4 collections of poetry and prose. In 2016, he won the Pagyunan Literary Award. He is a member of the poetry collective Changnan. And so Occupational Front, it features vignettes of people at work, and the common thread is that each worker is a poet at heart who, for various reasons, didn't or couldn't become a poet. And this collection of prose poems asks, who gets to be a poet? And Song drew inspiration from August Sander's documentary Portraits of Laborers during the Weimar Republic. And the collection, it's leftist, imaginative, poignant, metatextual, formally experimental, and whimsical with a dash of dark humor. Each entry is written in a different voice and style to portray a different occupation, some real, some invented. The collection features 71 occupations, including Pony Express mail carrier, sorcerer, amusement park guide, nightmare collector, job placement officer, and author. And so I'll read you a couple of pieces from that collection. So I'll read you the foreword, and then I'll read you the entry for fund manager. Foreword. Occupational Front collects from the past, present, and future the autobiographical writings of odd individuals who labor as if they are dreaming at their places of work. There exist individuals who are born with the temperament of a poet, but don't become one because of their home environment or career path, because they had no interest in school, although many poets don't like school either, because poetry seemed frivolous, because the literary establishment wouldn't publish their work, because they were just busy living their life, etc., and so on. The reasons are varied. These individuals who have the temperament of a poet but don't become one, what are they to do? They must become another someone who isn't a poet, a non-poet. Unfortunately, most poets must also become non-poets. Money is so cold and brutal like that. In Occupational Front, you'll find detailed accounts of such people live out their days at the workplace. These pages brim with their expertise in emblems, professional predicaments, their joys and sorrows, dreams, and the froth of false hopes. I ask you, dear reader, and someone who must become a non-poet, have you chosen your occupation yet? If not, I hope reading about their experiences will help you decide. Fund manager. Good afternoon, valued customer. We are on the rooftop of a building. Your precious assets are your everything. I am the fruit born out of the potential to destroy a person's everything. Have a nice day. Good afternoon, valued customer. We are inside an office. The only thing the vertiginously plummeting era of the stock market points to is the ontological exit for a self who doesn't know where to go. Have a nice day. Good afternoon, valued customer. We are in a hotel in the middle of New York City. According to the proof that wealth and happiness are unrelated, we can further prove that wealth is happiness. Have a nice day. Good afternoon, valued customer. We are inside a hot, empty beer can. As your will towards striving and sacrifice to repair broken things approaches an all-time high, the verdict that hits you like lightning goes by two names: impossibility and meaninglessness. These indelible names reveal death's revolutionary qualities. Have a nice day. Good afternoon, valued customer. We are on a steel bridge that stretches across a river. Note that the potential to gain everything intersects with the terror that you could lose everything. Have a nice day. Good afternoon, valued customer. We're now at a resort in the Mediterranean Sea. Life is pain. Life is a march of horrors advancing toward death. On the road to such a destination, money is but a painkiller. Nevertheless, if you kill yourself, there is also no pain. You no longer even need painkillers. Have a nice day. Good afternoon, valued customer. And with that, I will introduce, so I've been working on a project called Bee Dragon Suite, where there are some fantasy or made up, imagined K-pop boy bands and girl groups. And there's a group called Little Bang that's based off the K-pop boy band Big Bang. And the lead goes by, in this world, he goes by Bee Dragon. And so this introduces this concept of beeness, which I've been interested in exploring in this collection. B equals B, B equals flat, B as in flat, B as in blue, B as in twee, B as in failure, B as in not quite, B as in B as in busy, B equals P, Pinin P, P as in umbrella emoji, P as in anti, P as in not, P as in tombstone, P as in spend, P as in measure, P as in critique, P as in divide, P as in maintain, P as in bitch, P as in queen, P as in flight, P as in low, P as in sad, P as in whole, P as in root, P as in unknown, P as in to be continued, P as in begin. Meet the cast of Little Bang, your favorite soft power ethno-nationalist global sensation pop boy band. Dramatis personae, Bee Dragon, Pion. leader, main rapper, and vocalist, nickname BD. A shadow dragon from the gutter, a shade hell-bent on dragging through the motherfucking ocean to the underworld with a catabasis cranked to the masses, always plays on the B-side, minoritarian or just minor. In a mirror world, a K-pop flower boy whatever with a jawline to cut deep into the sky with swagger. LAST, last. Lead rapper, vocalist, and visual, nickname Dead Last. A turtle, a dragon, a turtle dragon, a ship in drag as a turtle dragon. Identity, schmidenity. This is an armored war vehicle built to last and last and last, to survive this neo-colonial identity and the next new hot thing, to outride all the explosions, big and little and middling. A permanent shell-on scow, best suited for a bumpy life. Dalim, Talim, main vocalist and main dancer, nickname Talim, or Dear Daughter. The dear honorable moon, part of a sibling duo tragically tiger chased into the heavens and transformed into coordinated celestial performers via folklore. Brother or sister? No one remembers. Blessed, dances and sings like there is no sorrow. Fashionably late or just a bit slow to the latest song and dance of the hegemony. So-song, lead vocalist, nickname Little Voice. A twinkling mouse of a voice made audible through amplification. Without a microphone and the greater sound system, just some wind whistling, a needle picking at a record, a whisper in a nightmare, wishes to retire one day from performance. Meanwhile, practices singing with one's own little throat. Fail Bay, Pebe. Lead dancer, vocalist, and Magne, the greenest, nickname Champ. What is the opposite of success? A cruel anti-joke about fruit. The ultimate bumbler who fails at failing better, only fails down and across, palpates winnings until they become losses, recognizes success as failure as reality. But at the end of the day, no one is as loyal, as wholly devoted, as assiduous, as juicy. Meet the Pink Blossoms. Your favorite provincialist soft flower nostalgia local anti-pop girl band. Dramatis Flores. Peach Blossom, Pinku One. Lead vocalist, rapper, dancer, and visual, nickname Pink One. Apricot Blossom, Pinka Two. Lead rapper, vocalist, dancer, and visual, nickname Pink Tone. Baby Azalea, Pinka Cyril. Lead dancer, rapper, vocalist, and Magne, the greenest, nickname Pink Thrill. Rose of Sharon, Pinka Tha. Leader, main visual, rapper, vocalist, dancer, and peninsular Amo Psychopomp, nickname Pink Death, aka Hibiscus, aka Flower of the Field, and Inexhaustible Abundance, aka Korean Rose. The Reader, Pinku O, main reader, dancer, vocalist, and present, nickname Pick Your Appellation Here. We are many, so many, flattened and forgotten between the perennial pages of history. We are iridescent. Our true hues cannot be replicated here, where we appear as generic, five-petaled pink hibiscus flowers. The pink flower stands in for something that cannot be replicated. Together, we miss our former, present, and future selves. Did we ever exist at all outside of an ethno-national unconscious? Did we ever hold us? Did we ever meet in the springtime of our hometown? We sing ourselves into being. We sing ourselves into choir. We are always dancing in our hearts. We follow Pinkusha, Hibiscus syriacus, the leader of this rosary, into the dark, into the light, into our luminous final resting place and home under earth. We vow to never return, to dive into the underworld, to remain there forever and ever. And next, we will be hearing a song by the Pink Blossoms with a backing track. So I will prepare that. Can you hear it? Is it loud enough?
Pretty close to you.
Maybe I can do. Is that better?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. All right. I'm gonna be holding two devices here. Let's try it out. So this is called "Bomb of My Hometown Sings the Bomb of My Hometown," and it's an experimental translation of a Korean children's song called "고향의 봄." The lyrics were written by Lee Won-soo, and the melody was written by Hong Nam-pa. And it was the lyrics were first. They're from 1926 when Korea was under Japanese colonization, and while it was a children's song, a lot of independence fighters who were in exile sort of thought of this song as they were thinking of their homes and their homelands. Bomb of my hometown sings the bomb of my hometown. Furrow 1. The well-done old fragrance of my flesh is a living mountain of bones, bleeding with flowers, with lucky peach flowers, fuzzy flesh flowers, real baby azaleas, a crying spell, a fire ritual, a recovering metal petal palace neighborhood. Circle dance 1. Bomb of my hometown. I try to hold on to the grime from my time playing in my body. Furrow 2. Flower independence, bird independence, peak village, new village, my not yet ancient birthplace, the village where, when desire calls from the south of blue, etc., weeping willows dance in the creek of net songs. Circle dance 2, home, bomb. I miss becoming inside, the morning glow there. Furrow 3. My late habitus incense vapes acid marrow, flavored in peach, apricot, and honey transmission flower. HD rainbow, a huge vacancy filled with K-pop beauties, a movement of yes. Circle dance 3. Home, balm, to pine for the perfect moment, playing in mind. Furrow 4. A botanical garden, a gathering of distances, my former hometown. When the wind whistles in from the troubled fields of other place, the community where development buddies rave in streams. Circle dance 4. Balm of my hometown. God, how I long for the springtime. I stayed free of labor inside. Home equals gutter. Bee dragon dreams of home, home is a gutter. Before we translate the Korean idiom 개천에서 용난다 into English, home is but a fill in the blank. From A/the A/the dragon, B. Fill in the word blank. From A/the brook, stream, creek, channel, gutter, sewer, trench, conduit, spout, valley, furrow, ditch. Place water makes a run for it. Place water takes a piss. Place water makes way. A/the dragon is born, is grown, is sprouted, is manufactured, is printed, opens, takes flight, occurs, happens, hatches, becomes an idiom, becomes known via rumor, becomes a product of, becomes a rags to riches story, rises above. 2 and 4 bee dragon, home is an idiom. And I will be reading some poems from The Snail Bride and Other Summer Stories. In the month of June, I was part of this project where people were writing a sestet a day. It was called sestet, summer sestets. And I ended up writing some sestets inspired by Franz Kafka because it was the 100th death anniversary of Kafka, and some were depression and desire, and a really twisted Korean folk tale from where I was born in South Korea. So I will read those poems. This is from a segment called Other Summer Stories. Meet me in Slob City. 6 summer sickos saunter Slob City, sift, spring softness, silt, slacker slicks, slot sham asunder, super slut shimmer, so saft and silly, cinder cellmates up. Same, semi-sim, super sub, slay, snuff, slit, snorsesh, seize. Happy Death Day, Franz. Sorry, I'm late to your 100th. I was constipated emotionally and ontologically, but not literally. Look behind you. Did you find your wings, Franz? I haven't, but I feel them gnawing within me, wanting a cage. And the following poems twist around a truly twisty Korean folktale from South Chungcheong province called Uronggakshi, or The Snail Bride. According to Wikipedia, in one version of the story, a river snail falls in love with a human farmer. She lives in a jar and only comes out in human form to prepare meals for him in secret while he is asleep or away working in the rice fields. And for these, I don't. Does anyone use like snail mucin products? Anyone out there? No. Formulated with 92% snail secretion filtrate, mucin, this cream helps naturally create the appealing glow of healthy skin. Advanced Snail 92 all-in-one cream from CosRx. The Snail Bride. Fuck me, I'm a snail bride. I am complaining. Why the fuck do I live in a crock to sneak out of at night, to cook food for you fools, while totally naked and hot? Why? How I turned into a snail? You mean who turned on me? I was ocean-bound, a saturated sea princess, turned on by dry land. I popped the waves, then crashed. Father caught me, punishment by metamorphosis, into a medium-sized plebe river snail. I said I would. Farm boy was lonely, so was I. In my grudging opalescence, wingless ballast, body spiraling, semi-aquatic and indifferent inflorescence. When he prayed for prandial partnership, I slid from my hard fate, shouted to the heavens, I will. He didn't see me. Farm boy heard me, didn't see me. By his foot, winking my tentacles, I will, please don't crush me. Took pity on my rock body, scooped me into his rough hands, took me home in my home. Pocket snail girl, you carried me in your pocket home. The salt of your thigh wilted me, awoke in a jar. Cool, wet, grooved apartment. Second shell, listen to time whir around me. Listen for your footsteps to exeunt. I'm here. You found me, Prozac blue. Aren't you glad you found me here? Rolling my eyes, flipping my lids, turning myself inside out, slow verse, spiraling out, then in, writhing on, earth digging my casket home. Okay, yeah, we did eat together. We ate together, we tabled labor, slipped afternoon, swam night, slivered sentience. Sentences could not concatenate our trailing. What did we eat but unshelled summer fruit, morning stars, gilt silt, slimed glitter, moon balloons, ice cubes? And then you unclasped me. One day you truly saw me, knew I had to return eventually, to escape a forever shell, to the sea, so endless, endless. You took me to the beach, sent me out twinkling, and tonight. And this is kind of the variety show portion. So I'm gonna try something I haven't done before. So maybe it'll get a little messy. I wanna give a content warning for generational trauma. Does anyone know what this is? Soju. Yes. How would you describe soju?
The worst hangover of your life.
All right, that's great. It's one of the most popular alcoholic beverages in South Korea, and it's also very popular in the world. And if you buy this in America, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little toad, which is the mascot for this soju company, this brand. But he's wearing an Uncle Sam hat, so I don't really know. I don't know why that is, but all right. Let me try that again. I'm trying to make a tornado. This is a poem called Sagwa, and it's part of a still life series where I take objects that might appear in a still life painting and use that to kind of dig into some of my personal history or family history. And the Korean word for apple is sagwa, and it's also a homonym for apology. My uncle, the dead one, when he was a small child, would report to neighbors once in a few silver apples. A stranger come home from commercial odysseys, beat him senseless. This is your father. No apples from your father, but your father's mother would hold you on her lap and peel sweet apples to feed you slices, while herself eating the bitter peels. This is your father's mother. Years earlier, your father's mother took her son out, tied him up to a courtyard post, to whip him senseless for wanting to go to school instead of working the fields. This is your stranger's mother. After you died from a rotten liver, origins, late diagnosed childhood diabetes, and lonely poverty, and feeling unloved and senseless, falling not far from this family tree. Your mother would recall laughing. how when you were small and the neighbors would serve apples, discarding the peels, you would collect them, return home, petals in your hand, a smile on your face for your stranger's mother. You knew they were her favorite. The shine in her eyes. And it feels really amazing to be here. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Atlanta, and thank you for doing that poem with me. And you can't have the South without KFC. So my last poem. Oh my goodness, this is still so slimy and gross, but it will keep you plump and young, I suppose. All right. KFC, or the taste of successes, wait for it, tender on the outside, tough on the inside. Birmingham, heart of Dixie, Winter March, Superstorm, 1993. Were we between homes? Piecemeal family packed into North American green four-door Pontiac parked in the swirl of cold, bundled together. Dad fed the engine set to burn gas, paid with lesser Washingtons. Who was there with the five of us? Colonel Sanders visited in his pressure fryer bucket to bless us with a secret incense of 11 herbs and spices, wrapping up a good paper meal. For a Korean household, christened again in the name of chicken, new snow people, biting into crisp country, southern hospitality to melt water crystals. We wasted nothing, even without power, waited for the gravy train, not knowing what it meant to live like it's all gravy. We were warm enough eating our laughs, one at a time, piling up joy, an avalanche to remember. So I do work as a literary translator, and next week I have this amazing children's picture book that I translated that's coming out on Tuesday from Enchanted Lion Books. It's about a cosmic friendship called Comet and Star. It's been getting some rave reviews, and it's good for grumpy people. It's good for children. And so I don't have any books to sell, but you guys should remove this. Yes, this is what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Keep it going for Stine An and Tanner Menard tonight. Yeah, you're right. Tanner also has some books for sale over here. Inquire with him about the prices. Inquire with him about payment. I'm sure he takes cash, card, all the above. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. If you're here tonight, you may already know, but if you don't know, the New Orleans Poetry Fest has opened submissions for event proposals. And if you're here, that means you're probably a down-ass poet who's into cool shit. So we would like to see y'all, send us some proposals for some cool shit for Poetry Fest. We can't do it without y'all. Y'all the people who make the Poetry Fest great. We want to see what y'all got. We want to give you some space to perform in, to talk in, to discuss in, to roundtable in, all that good jazz. Thank y'all so much for coming tonight. We'll be back November 9th with 2 more badass poets, 1 local, 1 from out of town. Look us up on the internet. If you don't know who's coming, you'll see. And grab a drink, tip your bartender, buy everyone here a drink if you can. See y'all next month.